say something about permits. I'm just curious about, they talk about having lease sales in PET 4. We had 2 of them in 2010. There's been 100 of them that have been inactive leases that have been relinquished, and there's been 11 of them expired, and that's because of the 10-year rule. Now, Mr. Holt keeps saying, well, there's no oil there. They have done no 3D work. Is that correct? Anybody know whether, Mr. Bellish, did they do any 3D work?
Mr. Congressman, limited 3D seismic work has been done.
But was the state involved in this?
We have been supporting exploration through credits on the production tax.
My point is, the new report went from $10 billion to $2 billion.
Mr. Congressman, I believe that is a self-fulfilling prophecy that's occurred. The most prospective areas of NPR-A were deferred from leasing and drilling activities.
That's what
the 2010 assessment was based on the wells that have been drilled in the last decade, which were in the least prospective areas of NPR-A for oil. That's what I asked the question for, because this has not been explored. The leases that were given were relinquished because they couldn't drill. And it is expensive oil. It's a long ways away to the pipeline. Until we have a big pool, you can't afford to put the infrastructure in to do it. That's our biggest challenge. We can go all to the pipeline. And I think the gentleman, Mr. Hastings, mentioned the fact Mr. Ottoman Society and Sierra Club and Defenders of the Earth, they're all trying to take and strangle the pipeline. For the members of this committee don't realize, if the pipeline shuts down, it has to be pulled up. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to starve the pipeline, and there's no doubt about that in my mind. This is to be drilled. If I hope that this committee will take and pass out ANWR, if you don't want to drill in PET 4, we'll drill in ANWR. This isn't the last pristine area in Alaska. We have those areas set aside, and now to say this is the habitat, and by the way, I was up there last week. There was many, many, many geese right around the wells, landing, laying their eggs. The goslings were going to be out in about 6 weeks or less. So don't tell me it affects the birds. In fact, the birds are in better shape than they were before. They are not, in fact, be endangered, in fact, threatened. If you don't believe me, go down to the golf courses around here.
Mr. Young,
I'm not answering. I didn't ask you a question. I did not ask you a question. Okay. Secondly, this area, we have this idea of a bridge being set aside by the EPA primarily. The EPA is the real snot on the handkerchief. This is really what it is, because they stopped the building of that bridge, and it's on native land, Mr. Chairman. This is not federal land. And if I get my way, I'll make sure the EPA can't do anything to native lands. We gave those lands to the natives for their economic and social well-being. They have drill wells on their land, and yet they can't build a bridge across Scoville to expand their finds and their drilling at the cost of the state, too. Mr. Sharp, you have a training school. How many people are you training for pipeline work?
Congressman, we're training as many as the market allows us to put to work. Right now, that's not as many as we'd like to see. We have 100 active apprentices in Local 942, probably the same in Local 341 in Anchorage. But is very sporadic in terms of the ability to get them into the oil field, into the pipeline.
Is most of that work being done on maintenance, or are you training them to build pipelines too?
We're training both, Congressman.
Both of them. This has been one of the knocks on the industry, because there's been an awful lot of outside oil workers come from, all due respect, Louisiana and other areas to Alaska, and then return. How many jobs do you think that pipeline, or if we get PET 4 open, would be created?
Congressman, I would not want to take a guess, except to say that right now, just the legacy jobs alone in Prudhoe, the regular maintenance jobs, are between 9,000 and 12,000. When I worked on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, my local union alone had 11,000 people, and that's from one of the 4 pipeline unions that are involved, not to mention all the building trades unions, not to mention the spin-off work, and the other work then would have to still be done, the regular construction projects. Congressman, it would be huge. I'd like to stay away from that question, because I know whatever answer I give, it will be wrong, but it would be thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs.
I thank you, and I'm running out of time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I hope we've kept everything in the correct order. Those who were here at the opening gavel in the order of seniority, and then everyone in order as they arrived afterwards. So Mr.